We have lots to talk about in today's video, including the latest NHL trade rumors. Today's trade rumors focusing on a variety of NHL teams, including the Edmonton Oilers, the Vancouver Canucks, Montreal Canadiens, Chicago Blackhawks, Anaheim Ducks, and a few others. Plus, we have a lot of news from the NHL waiver wire. We got a couple big milestones today involving Andrei Vasilevskiy, Ryan O'Reilly. Plus, we have a signing in Philadelphia and several injury updates, including a big one on Trevor Zegras and the Leafs lost goalie Anthony Stolarz to injury tonight. We'll discuss what we know about him and everything else coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss in today's video. It was another very busy day of NHL waiver wire activity. We had another claim and more players on waivers here today. So as we mentioned yesterday, we had Alex Nylander of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He in fact did clear, so he will not be picked up. He will be reassigned to the Toronto Marlies AHL club. We also had Dakota Mermis of the Maple Leafs as well, who was signed as a UFA, broke his jaw in the preseason, so he's never technically played a regular season game with the Leafs. He's a little bit of a journeyman defenseman, has played a decent amount of games though, had a good little stretch there with Minnesota a few years ago. He got picked up, so he was claimed by Utah. So Mermis is off to the Utah Hockey Club. And then, of course, new today, we have former Maple Leaf and current Edmonton Oilers defenseman Travis Dermott. So Dermott will be available on waivers. We'll find out tomorrow afternoon if he has been picked up or if the Oilers can reassign him to their American Hockey League affiliate. Now, as I mentioned as well, several injury and roster moves, some key injury updates here as well. We've been waiting word from the Anaheim Ducks on what's going on with Trevor Zegras. We knew it was some sort of lower body injury, whether it be knee or ankle or somewhere in the lower leg. We got word today that it's actually a torn meniscus. So he had to have surgery, and he's going to be out for about 6 weeks. Now, apparently, the Ducks had feared that it was something more severe. I'm guessing probably like an ACL or something along those lines. Obviously, something like that would have kept him out for the rest of the season and into the summer. But a torn meniscus overall isn't all that serious, and instead he'll be fixed up in a 6-week recovery with a bit of a holiday break. Shouldn't be too bad. But Zegras has been through a ton of injuries, and I hope for his sake he can get back and stay healthy and kind of get things back on track. Another big update as well, which we don't really know a lot yet, but tonight the Toronto Maple Leafs lost goaltender Anthony Stolarz. They're actually battling the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks are on a Canadian Eastern road trip right now. They've already made their way through Montreal and Ottawa, both losses for them, battling the Leafs tonight. Stolarz, of course, a former Duck himself, had been playing extremely well, and then he got hurt tonight with a lower body injury. Joseph Woll, obviously very capable, has also been playing well, came in relief and took over, but Stolarz has been one of the best stories across the NHL, one of the best free agent signings so far this year, and certainly somebody that he just really, kind of one of those underrated signings that's, him and Woll have produced a great goaltending for the Leafs this year. And if he's going to be out for an extended time, which we don't know, it could be a big blow. So obviously I'm sure Leaf fans and Leaf players are probably kind of holding their breath and hoping it's not too serious, but he did have to come out of the game and is not going to be back tonight. We'll have to wait further evaluation. I suspect it's probably going to be at least tomorrow or maybe the next day before we really get too much clarity, but more than likely he will miss time. Going into the season, and that was my biggest concern for Woll and Stolarz being the tandem for the Leafs this year. They both have shown stretches of being very capable, very skilled. I had no issues there. Like, on paper, if they're healthy, they should be able to provide very adequate tandem and maybe even be in the top half of the league. They've been even better than I expected them to be, which is great for Toronto. But my biggest concern, like I said, is they both have a long history of a lot of injuries. Now, Stolarz has been more healthy the last few years. I think a lot of the major injury stuff has been behind him, so we'll see what happens. But it could be a big blow. We're just kind of waiting for further evaluation and word on what the deal is with the injury there. So we'll wait and see. In Utah, we found out today that defenseman Robert Bortuzzo is going to be out for a bit. He's listed as day-to-day. The Nashville Predators recalled defenseman Kevin Gravel. The Dallas Stars recalled one of their top defensive prospects, Leon Bischel, and he is making his NHL debut this evening. So certainly congrats to him on that big night, and hope everything goes well for him. In Carolina, they've recalled defenseman Riley Stillman. Of course, like I said, the Leafs playing the Ducks tonight. They also recalled Grabenkin, who they had sent back. I wasn't sure if he was going to be staying in the AHL for was more of a off-day paper move, which appears to be what it was. They've also sent Marshall Refi back to the American Hockey League. In Montreal, they're playing the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. David Savard is out with upper body injuries, considered day-to-day. Jaden Struble jumped in the lineup in his place. A quick note on Carolina as well. Jack Drury did suffer a hand injury and is possibly looking at a significant absence, so we're waiting for further word from the team on that front. Now, as I mentioned as well, we have a signing today, signing in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Flyers have signed forward Jacob Gaucher, who gets a 2-year entry-level contract. He was an undrafted player, he's 23 years of age, was previously playing with them in their American Hockey League affiliate, but was on an AHL-only deal. So now he's got the upgrade to the NHL contract, so he's able to be recalled to the NHL club if they decide that he's ready for that opportunity. A couple big milestones going down this evening as well. We got the Nashville Predators. Ryan O'Reilly is back tonight playing game number 1,100. So 1,100 games for O'Reilly. And then, of course, we got Andrei Vasilevsky as well, has 500 games on his resume. So that's a major milestone, especially for goaltenders. Of course, for goalies don't play quite as much. You have to be a number one goalie for an extended time to hit that. So congrats to O'Reilly and Vasilevsky on those major games played milestones. A few other quick injury updates as well, some longer term ones. Ovechkin likely going to be out until the new year. I know we've seen some clips of him skating, but that's completely on his own. So he'll be upgraded, probably soon to be working with the skills coach, and then he'll have to go from there to eventually kind of skating with the team, skating with no contact, and then getting into contact. It's just going to be a little bit of a process. And with, obviously most teams are going to have a little bit of a stretch off over the holidays. It's expected that, sometime over the holiday break is probably when he's going to ramp things up, and he'll hopefully return in January. So he's probably looking at missing probably like another 7 games or so before we get Ovechkin back in the lineup. They certainly want to make sure they do what's best for him, so when he comes back, he's fully healed and ready to get through the rest of the year. Of course, we know Drew Doughty battling a long-term injury that he suffered early in the preseason, and of course, he's still not ready to go, but he is going to be able to start skating soon, probably sometime around the Christmas break. So the word on Drew Doughty is that he's hopefully going to be back mid to late January is kind of the goal right now. They were talking, about, I think it was Frank Saravalli on the Coast to Coast Amazon show tonight, saying that with Drew Doughty, he's very much with the history that he has playing in international competitions and with Hockey Canada. He's hoping that he can be back in time to show them in at least a couple of weeks of action to impress them. So should they need to name any injury replacements, that he can be considered. At this point, I think, Drew needs to be, just kind of focused on getting back and being, available to help the Los Angeles Kings hopefully make a push towards the playoffs. The Hockey Canada stuff is probably more of a secondary thing, but he definitely wants to get there if he can. Of course, JT Miller returns tonight for the Vancouver Canucks as well. He did speak to the media today pre-game, and of course, no big surprise, refused to discuss anything to do with his 4-week absence. Miller would only talk about the future and the fact that he was ready to be back and happy to be around the team again and all that. So obviously he seemed to be in good spirits. He seemed to be ready to play. Of course, he was asked about, rust and, all that, when you miss an extended time. And he's like, what? I've been out for 4 weeks. As much as I can prepare myself, wouldn't be shocked if there's a little rust in my game. We'll have to wait and see. But at the end of the day, it's a big boost. They're battling the Florida Panthers tonight. Of course, the former Stanley Cup champions from last year are a very tough team. So to get one of your best players back in the lineup should be a big boost. We'll see what Miller is capable of. I'm sure he'll look good, but, like I said, it wouldn't be shocking if there's a little rust there, but we'll have to wait and see. Big return nonetheless. On the trade rumor front, lots of today's info comes from the Nick Kypreos trade bait board that was put out just in the last 24 to 48 hours. Some very interesting names on this list that we haven't yet discussed in the video. Some of these names also come from a few other sources as well. But I know one thing I looked at is his list of goalies in the trade market. Now that Mackenzie Blackwood's been acquired, of course, by the Colorado Avalanche, which we also found out that after seeing an interview with Blackwood, that he grew up an Avalanche fan. And idolizing Joe Sakic. So for him, this is kind of living out a childhood dream, so to speak. So he's quite happy and content to be with the Avalanche. And the Avalanche are hoping that they found their guy and that he can stabilize things. And they are looking at this as more than just a 1 year thing. Of course, Blackwood is a pending unrestricted free agent, and they're hoping things work out that they can extend him. And, he can be their number one goaltender for at least a few years. I'm not sure what kind of extension they'd be looking at. Probably nothing too long. I would suspect probably 2 to 3 years. But, either way, we'll see if he can become the number one and stay the number one for a bit of an extended period of time there. And, of course, we also heard some conflicting reports about Jacob Trouba in Anaheim now that he's with the Ducks, about him being flipped to another team by the deadline. There was a new report today suggesting the exact opposite, that not only are the Ducks less likely than we thought to trade him, but they may try to extend him and keep him there with the Ducks for a period of time as well. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, I think for more than anything, it's not that teams don't like Jacob Trouba or the Rangers didn't like Jacob Trouba. It's the contract that comes with him. If he's willing to sign an extension for, a good amount less than the $8 million, then maybe he could have good value and play a good role in that rebuild and be a good leader and do all those things that he was expected to do and was doing with the Rangers. So we will see what kind of long-term fit there may be with the Ducks. Of course, we'll watch that situation play out and see what direction things go. The two goalies on Kypreos' trade bait board, though, of course, now that Blackwood's off the market, is Philip Grubauer and John Gibson. Now, of course, Gibson watched play last night against the Ottawa Senators, had a bit of a rough night, giving up 5 goals, but for the most part, Gibson has played really well this year. Save percentage well above 900. On a not great defensive team in many areas. The Ducks are near the bottom of the list in many metrics across the game. So certainly, Dostal and Gibson have both been really good for the Ducks this year. You could see last night watching him play the Senators. He looked tired. He looked frustrated and just looked a little bit of exhaustion. I mean, were they getting a lot of shots? They were hemmed in a lot. The Senators certainly dominated the game in a 5-1 victory, but it wasn't even like the shot totals were that ridiculously high. The shot totals were, favored Ottawa, but not by a huge margin. I think just for the most part, the Ducks shots were more perimeter shots further out, not a lot of rebounds. Allmark played extremely well. The one goal they did get was a bit of a goof up from Allmark. He came out to play the puck to shoot it off the boards and out, and the Ducks got a gratuitous bounce. Instead of hitting the boards, the puck hit the referee, bounced right to Anaheim, which I believe was McTavish, who passed it to Cutter Gauthier, who scored, because Allmark wasn't really set back in position yet. It was just a quick bang play off of an Allmark. I don't know, it's kind of a screw up in a way, but it's really an unlucky bounce. Like he was trying to hit the boards and the puck hit the referee. But otherwise, that team has struggled in so many ways. Like you have to think there's going to be maybe major changes coming to Anaheim. Gibson's been in the rumor mill forever. There's not a lot of money left on his contract, and he's finally playing well. For teams out there looking for that help, whether it be Carolina, which we've heard about. We had heard about the Avalanche, who I think are settled now. There's probably a couple other teams out there. If they're going to make a goalie move, they want to do like the Avalanche didn't get it done early. But, the Kraken, I think, would love to move Grubauer. They signed Decord long-term, 5 times 5, I believe it was. That, and he's greatly outplayed Grubauer. So to me, I just don't know. I think a Grubauer trade to Seattle makes a ton of sense. I just don't know who's going to want to take him. A Gibson trade, I think, is more likely, less term, been playing well on a bad team. And it wouldn't be shocking if he ended up maybe being the guy for the Hurricanes. We'll have to wait and see on that front. But Gibson, I think, has played his way into that conversation that teams will at least be more open to considering him now. And his teammate, Cam Fowler, is getting a lot of attention on the trade market. There was reports today, as well as I believe Kypreos mentioned it as well in his trade bait list, that one team that appears to be very interested in Cam Fowler is Stanley Cup finalist from last year, the Edmonton Oilers. We know they want to add on the blue line. and Fowler just might end up being their target. I don't know if they're much in a rush. The Oilers have played very well lately, so I don't know how quickly we're going to see any moves on the blue line. We saw them put Dermott on waivers today. We saw them pick up a defenseman yesterday, Alec Regula, who was on waivers from the Bruins. So they're certainly trying things out. I don't know that they're going to make the big move like anytime in the near future. I think it's probably going to come later. They can accrue more cap space, kind of reevaluate what assets they're willing to move and whatnot. But Fowler to the Oilers is apparently just something that has got a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of momentum, and it appears to be some interest there. So we'll have to monitor that. But I think Cam Fowler, to be honest, will get a fair bit of attention from a decent amount of teams. So we'll see. Now, former Oiler defenseman, current Canuck defenseman Vinny Desharnais is reportedly kind of quietly being shot by the Canucks. I don't know if they're absolutely going out there trying to move him, but based on what I had seen in the reports today, it sounds like that Desharnais could be available, of course, in the right deal. I don't know that he's worked out the way they were hoping for, just like the Oilers signed Josh Brown as kind of like a Desharnais replacement, and that bombed early as well. I don't know if there'd be any appetite to bring Desharnais back to Edmonton. There obviously is a reason why they didn't re-sign him, but still another player that is, out there, and he's got the big size. He's a right shot. With the Oilers last year, he was pretty good in the penalty kill, especially in the playoffs. So we'll see. I think there could be a market for him. He's making $2 million for one more year, so we'll see where that goes. But another right shot defenseman that's out there and also has links to Edmonton as well. The Oilers have been, I swear, every time you turn around, they've been linked to so many different defensemen. It's really hard to say what direction the team finally goes in. But if it's not Edmonton, it's going to be somewhere. It's in Montreal. Veteran D, David Savard, is on the Nick Kypreos trade bait board. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to be moved. I think they'll be able to get a first-round pick for him. I said he's a veteran guy with a Stanley Cup on his resume. He's right shot. He's got good size. He blocks a lot of shots. Defensive minded, can play the penalty kill. It could be somebody who can be used in a shutdown / penalty killing role for the playoffs. I think there's great value there. We've been hearing, the Oilers and Savard for a long time. So between Savard, Fowler, and Desharnais, there's lots of names out there for the plus. What we've seen the Oilers be doing here on the waiver wire, picking up guy like Regula, obviously there's lots of trial and error going on in Edmonton to try to get the right mix on the blue line. Now, another name as well that's out there is Taylor Hall, and he's listed on Nick Kypreos' trade bait list as well. Of course, he's been healthy scratched earlier this year. Now, we've also seen a coaching change in Chicago. Curious to see what that'll do for him. I know Connor Bedard's starting to play a little bit better as of late as well. Certainly, Luke Richardson, I don't think it's really his fault that the team was struggling the way that they were, but hopefully you want to see some of these guys do a little bit better. But Taylor Hall is a former league MVP, doesn't have a lot of term left on his contract. Obviously with any kind of salary retention, could be cheap, whether or not there's a reunion with New Jersey or, another team that's looking for a top 9 winger who can score and has some good history. I honestly kind of wonder how much gas does Taylor Hall have in the tank. I don't know. He's been hurt so many times over his career. This doesn't seem to be the same player that he once was. I mean, I know he's an interesting pickup, but if you look at teams, like I said, New Jersey or Dallas, or, we know some of these teams are going to be looking to add for sure, but I can see Chicago moving him too. There's no doubt. I think they'll dangle Taylor Hall for sure before the deadline to see if a team wants to pick up the veteran former MVP, but I just don't know that there's a lot of game left in him that I think, to me, he'd be a risky pickup. I really do. When he went to Boston a couple of years ago, I thought that'd be a great fit. He'd maybe finish out his career. And then, it started off good, but over time, kind of wore out and just couldn't find that success anymore. So, obviously, they moved on. And then he hasn't had the greatest run in Chicago either. So, you're looking at more of the history of Taylor Hall from a number of years ago, more than the recent scope here of work. So I don't know. He's out there for sure, but whether or not he gets picked up, completely different story. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.